what when you were growing up and your family was asking you what you want to do when you grow up, did you say I want to run for NRD, or what was the path like getting from I guess from your job to wanting to run for office? Are you going to keep your job if and when hopefully you get the office? Like what's the how do you bring in politics to your life? Because if I'm not mistaken, this isn't your first total introduction to politics. You've been involved in the local party here for a few years, I believe. So yeah, let everyone know kind of your background and how you got into politics and where your love for it comes from.
Well, so we absolutely live in the greatest nation on the earth. And one of the things that allows us to be exceptional is the fact that we can go to our government, petition our government, and change our government peacefully. And that's a big thing for me. When I grew up, I was, my family, we lived on a street and we were kind of isolated from a majority of other families. There wasn't a lot on our street. And it was a dividing line between two school districts. So I remember my dad was in a newspaper. He went to one of the school board meetings during a proposal to decide if our little carved out area could then transition over to the other school district. So that was really my first experience with seeing the normal, everyday neighbors going to their government and requesting a change. And from there was a long pause or silence as I would, just do my normal growing up, get a family for myself, and then realize that I need to step up too to help create the America that I want to see and help to preserve the exceptional America that I grew up with.
What ultimately led you to that calling or that passion? I mean, because that's just it's a big leap. Like you said, you took a big pause and you kind of lived a lot of life in between that initial kind of exposure to now. So was it a straight jump, or did you meet someone in a local party here that got you involved, or what was that transition like? Because surely you didn't just do like one jump to the other.
So if you're a family that talks about politics and you talk about politics at the dinner table, then more than likely you also talk about politics with your friends or your neighbors. And so I would have those conversations with a very good friend of mine, and he had been involved in the local party as well and had always encouraged me to go and join, but I could never find the time. But at some point, when you see the potential for your government to be going in a direction you don't want it to go to, or you see the potential for the government perhaps maybe just spending more money than you think they should, you have to make the time. Time is money. And so by me making the time now to be able to help to support people, to be able to help to eventually get in and reduce property tax, it's money or it's time well invested.
And this is something that you can touch on if you want, but I mean, I know you're an accountant, and you also, I think, ran you're the money manager chair for treasurer. Thank you. I don't know why I can't think. The treasurer, not money manager. The treasurer for the Young Republicans, or was it the whole Douglas County Republican Party?
Yes. So
you're very well qualified to be in that spot. So do you want to touch on that and kind of feel why you believe that your background has kind of led in a way it's kind of come full circle and this is almost the perfect position for you?
Absolutely. So I'm a graduate from UNO. With an accounting degree.
Go Mavs, me too.
I did not plan on handling taxes, so I did not go the CPA route. I wanted to go into management and management accounting, which is exactly the direction that I went into. Ironically, I ended up doing sales and use tax for about 18 different states for the company I work for. So you can't avoid it.
Right.
It's just one of those things, part of life in when you're running a business or helping to run a business. But I'm an accountant. I was a CFO for a small rural hospital. So I've got a little flavor for Nebraska and the challenges at the hospital where, one, it was a taxing authority. So I was taking money and hopefully managing it well and spending it well as far as I thought.
Sure.
And then now I was also then on my SID, so which is a sanitation improvement district.
Okay, yeah.
So anytime a new development is built, the development and the people who move in there have to pay for the city light or the lights and the electricity, the roads, the sewers,
all the infrastructure.
the infrastructure.
Like, yeah.
And then at some point, potentially, it gets purchased by the city
Sure.
once the bonds are paid off significantly, and it makes sense for the city to do it, i.e., tax revenue.
Yeah.
But so I'm an accountant, and currently I'm a corporate controller for a construction company, and we have a national footprint. And we build cellular systems inside buildings, hospitals and hotels and convention centers, and so that has allowed me to get an opportunity to look at construction contracts, construction costs, change orders if there are any, what goes into the construction process, and be able to ask the financial questions I have back to our project managers,
Right.
To make sure that they're fully supported by our corporate, and also that our corporation is fully protected as well.
Well, that makes sense, because a question that I had in my mind that I had to ask you was why NRD, a position that not many people even know what it stands for, let alone knows what it does. Why that position versus legislature, mayor, whatever. But I think that you just kind of answer that. Your background, your life experience totally led you, to this position. It's very fitting.
So not just the construction accounting background, which everything is the Papillion or the Papio, Missouri NRD, they outsource the construction and they outsource the engineering as well to private citizens. And I like that. That's, I think, how government should run. Is government should be for the benefit of the citizens, and the citizens taking the risk to run their own business. But so being able to review the contracts and the multi-million-dollar contracts and see the level of detail and the scope of work that goes into building a system, and going out, as I've already gone out and started meeting with their engineers and some of the builders who build the levees and the dams, and understand their side of the contract, what they're looking for, as they're partnering and applying their skills and abilities to the NRD as well. Accounting absolutely has every facet, has to do with every facet within the NRD and what I'll be doing on the board as far as reviewing the contracts. But really, it's kind of who I am that makes me a little different, that I do ask the questions. I'm not just a debits and credits kind of guy, that when our engineer is designing our cellular system, that I ask questions about the various costs. Is there an ultimate or a different way to reduce costs? Because we're competing against others. Right. How do we reduce our costs? How do we come in at the perfect spot so we're not leaving money on the table? So I ask questions, and I think that's the biggest advantage. I'm not just going to be a silent person on the board, and that everything that is pushed my way is fed to me and I accept it. But to be able to figure out what questions to ask and ask those questions right back. How are you going to benefit the NRD? Why should we choose your company? What is your competitive advantage that the other company doesn't have? And does it fit this particular project?
That's an important trait just in life, is, I wouldn't call it exclusively playing devil's advocate, but just always saying, well, this, we've done it this way for a decade or whatever, however long. Let's examine other options. There's technology always changing. There's new competitors coming in. Let's get some more bids. So yeah, I think that's a very good quality to have, not just for being in politics, but I think for a life skill. Is people need to realize that everything that is set in place has kind of been set by people just like you and me, at one point in time. So it's good to, challenge maybe that's just a rebel in me coming out, but it's good. It's good in my opinion to challenge or just ask about different ways, to do things to get stuff done.
Well, so I have learned the system. I've learned the parts. I've reviewed the designs. When we go through a bill of materials phone call, I'm right there with the project manager, with the construction manager, and with the engineer, reviewing the designs and seeing how they're put together and just asking in general questions. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a hydrologist. I'm not a water engineer. I've never built a levee, except for maybe when I was a kid with my Tonka trucks, and those always break. Right. The water always gets through, or something happens. Yeah. I'm not there to be an engineer, and I'm not there to be the construction manager. I'm there to be the people's representative, and I think the skills that I have with the accounting help get the questions answered to provide the sureties needed that the project that's on the table or on the plate is acceptable.
Oversight, just bird's eye view oversight of the whole thing.
Absolutely.